Well, welcome to I'm Quitting the Cup. That's right. No, basically, this is not morning, so it's not the first cup. This is not the last cup, but actually, I'm having probably my last cup. But it's a iced coffee. So anyhow, we're going to talk about the United States chronological map understanding of economics, basically, because the future is now global, and there's a lot of other things that are happening that we need to basically understand. And this is not a game. When you're looking at these type of statistics, this is not a game because we have to understand a whole lot about what is going on in retrospect, because we do have a whole lot of stuff that is going on. It's crucially important to understand because we have massive problems. The problems are we're being overtaken economically because we're facing many billions of people in this world, and we don't even have a 500 million people in this country. Apparently, we have, less than 400 million people in this country. So you can look up whatever the current statistics are, and you can argue whether or not you need to split some hairs and say, well, maybe there's some uncounted people or whatever. But bottom line, the revolution that we had to guarantee our understanding of our stuff is crucially important, because productivity of the average vested colonial citizen included them basically building a house. You just did it. There's none of this, maybe I'll be able to afford a stick built someday. No, you had to build structure or the elements would kill you. No game here. No game, no joke. This is, not even funny as to what would be happening, So, here we have a tremendous understanding as how we're going to be able to look at all of this and focus on what all these various types of problems are economically, because we have to compete. We're in a new competitive age. We have to constantly keep that military balance. That is something we just have to do. Yet we're basically, it's more than getting our hat into is we're getting creamed out. There's a lot of people think we're doing wonderful, but we're not when you look at the overall volume of the forward progress of all these other countries and their momentum, the momentum. So we have to restore our momentum economically, which means we have to guarantee that people's labor is bankable. We have to guarantee everybody can build their own home with their own hands, no matter what job they got. So yes, we have to do this. We have to guarantee that at least vested citizens can be at max production, because guess what? Technology moved forward. And I'm not kidding when I'm telling you, I went around and talked to a whole lot of people repeatedly, decade after decade, to do certain experiments. And let me just hit you real hard here. When I go to a place that's like, maybe it's a Home Depot or whatever, and you got some guys hanging out in the back of the parking lot looking for work, and they speak poquito, very little English. So you ask them, hey, I've got the land and the materials there and the permits are done, basically. All you'd have to do is build. If I gave you 2 helpers, you say you're a carpenter, how many houses could you build me? Let's say 4-bedroom houses in 1 year. How many houses? How good are you? And you go, senor, I am a good carpenter. I could build you 3 houses in 1 year. 3. Yes, is that situation? Yes, I could build you 3 houses. So we have a situation, and I'm going to tell you, the guy is telling you straightforward, because there's plenty of contractors that will tell you straight out. That's reasonably accurate. Yeah, that's real. Again, depending upon the permit situation. And of course, technology. We have hand tools, battery operated drills, We have nail guns. Do you think a nail gun would have came in handy in the year 1750? You think people would have liked that? Oh my goodness. Keep in mind, people used to burn their houses down when they got a little bit of mold growing, and maybe they got some insects were coming in. They'd say, well, it's getting old. We got some mold and a little dry rot. Let's just get some wood together. They get some wood together, and then they turn around and go, oh, we need some more nails. They would burn the house down to salvage the nails, just to give you an idea what nails were worth back then. No, not kidding here. Yeah, well, let's just burn the house down. We can sift through the ashes and pull the nails out. We'll reuse those. So we're in a completely different age technologically. And what we're having people telling us economically is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. California, Los Angeles, schools, K through 12, 13 years of schooling, 480 grand spent. You arrive at your child's graduation of high school, and you have them, they lead out a group and they say, this is the group of 56% that not only graduate high school, but they're in the job placement rating. 56% of them getting placed in jobs as burger flippers. Aren't you proud as parents? Should you be proud? And, there are people around the country decades back that would be shaking their head at the idea that somebody could possibly spend basically $500,000 and present their 18-year-old child with a certificate of completing high school and a burger flipping job. I mean, this is just completely lunacy. This is let's immediately start arresting these people. This is an incredible case of fraud. Because it's just insane. Nobody can run a school and say, yeah, we're going to spend over 400 grand, and we'll guarantee that you're going to be a burger flipper. Just let that sink in real quick, okay? Because we're going to move on, because we got to talk about this. We have to get back to the original colonial revolution, and the deal is we made a deal. It's a contract. Unlimited access to the Treasury to build our own real estate and access to lands. We are a great land company. We're a republic. Please keep this in mind. We are a republic, not a democracy. Okay, this means that we're stockholders, okay? And it's about time to get that stock issued because it's always been implied before. Now, you're going to hear a bunch of people just stand up and continuously lie about it, which is amazing. Public servant. Oh, yeah, you can't be corrupt financially, and the government can't actually own the land. We created the government to have elections to help facilitate our financial wellness. We wanted to provide for our common defense and for our welfare. And welfare back then, the word means financial health, financial well-being, and promoting of environment, fair environments. So it's almost like a laissez-faire, kind of like, imagine, wouldn't it be nice if we had something that's almost like a World's Fair every day, every place we go? It's business, 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 and opportunity. Oh, by the way, your labor is always bankable. Yeah, I mean, could you imagine, there was no such thing as, could you fill out these credit forms? Could you just fill out this? We got 6 feet tall of paperwork stacked right here. We just need you to go through this. Oh, I'm sorry. In some states, it's less. We only have 2 feet in some states. Oh, I'm sorry. In some states, it's 18 inches. And I believe there's a few states that it's less than 10 inches of stacked up paperwork. None of that existed. The idea that we have all of these ridiculous regulations and permits and all this other stuff invented is to understand most of it was never needed. It's common sense. "Oh, how can you get away with this? No, 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 but you have to have experts and gag that whiner over there, gag him. So let me start out with this. Look, see these photographs? Yeah, look, these people. Yeah, slab house. Yeah, you see that? Look close. Here's the close-up photos. Look at those big, huge cracks in the floor. Would you believe that's a 3-year-old house? Yeah, that's a 3-year-old house. Look at the size of the cracks. Now, is it obvious that whoever built the house is responsible? I mean, well, they used a contractor. Wow, it sounds like this guy, whatever it is that he did, whether it was improper assessment of the ground firmness, the geologic, whatever he did or she did or they did it wrong. They did it wrong, and they charged big money for this house. And the foundation's cracked horribly, horribly. That is a basic understanding of olden law. Yeah, it's obvious. It's blatantly obvious you did something wrong. And it's blatantly obvious to us. Yeah, who are these people again? Because they're liable. You didn't need a bunch of fancy laws to figure out, I'm sorry, we didn't have cameras really back then. You would have had to invite people out and walk around the site. And you used to walk around and someone's going to say, look, I can stick my thumb down in between this concrete here. Yep, thumb goes down real good. Look at that. Look at that. Look how long that crack is. This a 3-year-old structure? No, you did not check your ground right. I won't believe. No. This is blatantly obvious to me. I mean, how many wheelbarrows full of paperwork do you need to go through to understand the self-evidence of when it's blatantly obvious that somebody screwed up and screwed up big? It's a no-brainer. There's all these things that are no-brainers, and we don't need all of this different paperwork, because if somebody does something wrong, we can drag them into court, and jury look at that and says, yep, I walked over and stuck my thumb in the ground too. Yeah, in 8 different places. Yeah, that was an easy one. Yeah. Oh yeah, buddy. Yeah, that was it. Didn't they? Yeah, these people did not check the ground right, and they're charged big money, and they did not perform a fair deal. Not fair. Nope. So see, the thing is I don't want to go through all of these different instances. It's like, yeah, this high rise over here, look, it caught on fire. Oh, 87 people burned to death, and somebody else comes in, we have a test right here. Yes, apparently things turned into cyanide. A bunch of plastic burned and people went, boom. They couldn't make it out. Okay, again, with the item, we had fire inspectors. We had inspectors that would go look at multi-level houses. Do you believe that? Colonial times, we actually had safety inspectors. We did. The guy basically come through and said, look, it's just a safety check. We just want to see what you got going here. And they'd walk through and they'd look at things. And there's a list. You can find all this old information. You got too many people sleeping too close together. You got too many people that are sick in close proximity. You can't do that. Okay? You don't have access for enough water for people to wash themselves. You're doing this boarding house or hotel, and they could go through and sort a lot of this out, and then just basically walk the person through and say, look, okay, here we got right here you go. Grab a sheet of paper, make a note as we go along. I'm going to point and you make a note. I got 7 big points for you to look at. I want you to fix those. I'm going to come back a month from now and I want to see some kind of progress. And I'm going to be here. I'm going to show up in a month later and I'm going to walk through. I probably won't even be here 5 minutes. So I'm going to walk up and ask you to tell me where to walk. To say, yes, I did something on item number 3 or 1 or whatever. Show me something. Show me something. Give me a reason. Explain it. Because I really don't want to spend more than 5 minutes of my time updating this situation. Because I have a strong suspicion you won't be able to fix all of them in 30 days. But hey, I'll work with you. So and these are things that we put in, and we had these different ways that we could do certain types of taxes. And there are certain types of taxes that did not exist rurally. They didn't exist in your residential area. You had taxes that existed based upon certain commerce activity in certain places. But here's the thing. Let me rock your brain. The government prints currency. We allowed the government to print currency. The government makes a profit, the same way the British did it. Real quick, the British had a guy running around appraising all new buildings. Hey, that's a new building showed up. We'll appraise that. Okay. Oh, I see the community over here has grown. New structures. Okay. With those two statistics, they'd go back to the Crown's Treasury and they would invite 3 different professionals from banks to say, look, I want you to look at my numbers here. I'm saying that the growth of this community is a potential harvest in taxes, maybe. We don't have to do any taxes yet, but it's a potential. It's a potential. And by the way, obviously these look at the appraisals, new assets made. Look fine to me. I had this one guy make a rough drawing beforehand. I sent him out there, and he did this. And I'm an expert. I've done this for many years. You see my expertise, gentlemen. Now I want you to make your recommendations, because I believe that these statistics right here equate to 50 cents on the dollar, and that's the new notes we're going to create and make big notes, giant notes, to go to banks with and say, this is a giant note and it's been justified. So what did you end up with? You get 3 guys that basically are going to agree. Yep, that's the method. Yep. Because why? Well, they want to be paid, for one thing. So then the big notes are handed over to some bank and says, look, we want to change these here. Hang on to these. They're good. And hang on to these, and you can, let's say in 6 months or in a year, you can turn them in for silver. Okay. So now all of a sudden they get the cash. They go and buy a whole bunch of goods. They buy a whole bunch of goods from what? Well, people that are the Crown's subjects that are basically making products, furniture, things, okay? And then they hand it to the East Indies Company and they say, ship it worldwide, sell it, let people bid for choice on the furniture. They're going to want to take first choice on the best wood grain running. That's going to be retail. And then it's going to level out. And then I want you to sell everything regardless of loss, no matter what. You got to clear the ship. And then, maybe I have a list of some things I want you to bring back. But it's convert that all into coin, okay? Copper, brass, bronze, silver. Lots of silver, please. So now the full cycle comes back because they liquidate everything, some regardless of loss. Some is sold as loss, but a lot of it was sold at big profits. Then they tow it back. It goes into the treasury. That's full cycle. That appraisal and then the note that got printed was cashed in for smaller notes to pay these other people for products. And these products were converted to coin. The coins in the treasury, everything now balances out. And guess what? They didn't even need to tax anybody a dime. That's right. Never needed to tax anybody a dime. They just used that money on a wholesale international exchange program. Assets converted to coin. Okay. So we said to the British, it's very simple. Okay. Yeah, we've decided to do something else. We're making our own treasury, and y'all are out. Yep, you're out. No. You can't do no appraisals. You can't do no leveraging. You can't do no taxes here again. That was it. Well, it's a tea thing. You came in and brought that foreign tea in and says, hey, look, man, there's a tax on tea. And then you called us lazy. Some of us stood on soapboxes and gathered people together, and we explained to you the community had a vote and decided that any foreign goods coming in that have taxes put on them are legal products. Those are not allowed. So we explained it by throwing your tea into the bay. I hope we're clear on this, okay? Yeah, because we don't believe in taxes. When you're making banks, man, you're making bank, lots of money on us. You understand, man? We already know, man. We got this dude over here told us the whole thing, man. He used to work for y'all. Told us the whole thing about what you do. Okay, so yeah, here you're doing the treasury game. Well, we're gonna do the treasury game now. It's all about us for ourselves, and we don't need y'all anymore. Yeah, so this is plain and simple. But the revolution is we were supposed to get unlimited access for the purpose of making new hard assets, real estate, because it gets appraised. It's an asset. It's real. All the community growth is real. So the assets were separate than the community potential tax pool. It's a separate statistic. So they would print 50 cents on the dollar just on the assets. Okay, plus they'd print 50 cents on the dollar, the British did, okay, off the community growth potential for taxes without taxing of anybody a dime. So we knew this. So we used the same exact type of system, and we would help facilitate an East Indies company understanding. We have a republic that is fused with an East Indies style company, which has not been doing so well because of the 60-year wars. Why? The British flipped out. And they're like, what? Yeah, they flipped out, man. We got to the point where all of a sudden we had 50% of freighters worldwide, freight ships, were coming to the United States, 50%. Now, that didn't equate out to population versus other populations in size and versus product, technology, and all this other stuff. It's like we were just like an overgrown banana republic, They have land, but they're not developed. How are they doing this? You had people all over Europe like, what's going on over here? So I could tell you about the other creative ways we used it, because we did exactly the same thing. We went to people and says, hey, look, it's been decided. We did an appraisal, and we talked about it at the stewards meeting. Were you there? Yes, I remember. I was there. You talked about the justification. Okay, so you understand. We have paper. Look, you make furniture. We want you to increase your furniture production an additional 300%, and we want to buy 30% of everything you produce. And here's the paper for it, and in 1 year the paper is redeemable for coin. Oh, I don't know. Well, do you want to increase your business? Well, I'm a little short on the cash right now. Well, we got cash. Here you go, paper. We can book it. We can fix this. We can fix it. I just took a guy down the road up we told him, could you build an extra sawmill? He said, if I had a blade, I could do it. And so we got that. Yeah, we can hook you up. So all these things were being facilitated by our forefathers. It's a really long speech on that, actually long teach on it. And so we have the most brilliant economic design in the history of the world, and the British flipped out. They ran around burning buildings down. Yeah, state after state. They would send renegades in and troops in for short periods of time and burn offices to the ground. They go to people's homes and burn it. They go to people's businesses again, so they'd burn down warehouses, all this stuff, and this is part of our history, and you don't hear it talked about too much. It was big. It was really, really big. But we kept finding a way to keep making it happen. And finally, the British came. They did all these things. But the big one was, okay, we can't stop this thing here, so we want to intimidate these commercial shipping people, and we're going to board their ships and take a percentage of their hands, and we'll call them deserters from the Navy. Yes, yeah, these people are deserters. And they poached them. They kidnapped them, basically. So you had people like really worried about it. There was some other things, taxes, just other different things that they did. But that was the big one. And that's when some of our forefathers got together and says, well, you know what? Hey, we're going to have to declare war because we're doing these things and we're beating their butts. By the way, in many cases, we were personally guaranteeing and paying twice the going rate. Yeah, of anybody else in the world bring the products we wanted and take the products that we had, and sell them worldwide, mostly into the East and India and all along the way in there and whatnot. So this happened. This is the way, we did business big. And on top of that, we also had chances to buy things wholesale. We were flooding the market on goods, and all this other stuff. So we would sell regardless of loss. We did the same thing. And we towed back the coin. And it did not take, but 20-some years before we started having some substantial amount of coins showing up in our treasury. But we wanted to, straight to the breach. We want to keep maximizing. So, we had all these things happening, so some people got jealous. There was some fights, some rioting, I don't want to get into all of that right now. But so we have this great system, and a lot of the paperwork was actually destroyed. It was also confiscated. The British confiscated a whole bunch of commerce paperwork. They have it hidden in Britain in various places. They do. Because some of it was evidence of rebellion against the crown. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, they were, they thought they might need some things, so plus the intelligence, they wanted to understand what were we doing exactly. Yeah, because how did we end up with 50% of the cargo ships in the world coming to the United States with comparatively versus the rest of the world, no population, no industry at first at least. And we were all of a sudden growing in leaps and bounds. We were buying stuff all over the place, And that was because our forefathers literally would walk up to people and, I came by last month and I see you've increased that furniture plant right here. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're going to take that 30%. Yeah. Could you double this? I just happened to notice logistically, you're right. Everything's really close. We got some new machine tools in. Could you double this again? Oh, no, there's no way. You guys said, no, I might be able to increase production additional 25% and add another building. Okay, great. But instead of us buying 30%, we want to buy 75% of the products you have. And the guy's like, oh, well, yeah, we were having some problem liquidating it, but yeah, we can do it. We can give you that good wholesale. We can give you a decent wholesale rate. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, we'll just ship them into the warehouse, Washington shipping warehouses. So this is what we were doing. Now, the problem is that longevity was 38 years of age on a statistical average, and we started losing people. And the British kept burning our business records of how we did this very creatively. So it was I had kind of a hard time piecing together all these different fragments to figure a lot of this stuff out. It took a while. I'll tell you. And but yeah, that's the whole thing. That some people don't understand. We don't need taxes. There's no reason for taxes. Well, okay, excuse me. And an import-export rate, Congress or the president needs to do taxes to tame other countries, respective to what's going on. But we also had congressmen and senators doing certain types of sponsoring. Basically, they would go among their different people, and they would help facilitate trade. The entire purpose of making currency is what? To facilitate trade. It's in writing, I swear. So we don't really need taxes. Only certain emergency situations, like war. We got a war again. Okay, well, we have to guarantee that we have plenty of money, so we're going to have to tax people just a wee bit. By the way, we also did stuff where we taxed, but it wasn't actually a tax. It was, well, we're going to pay you back, but it's going to take a while. We did some of that too. And which is, the thing is in the engineering of the economic mass modeling stuff I do, we can do stuff just like that. Where, yeah, it's not a tax, really, because you're going to get paid back. Yeah, it's kind of a forced collective mass loan accessing situation. So, yeah, there are these certain little reasons. So we don't need taxes. So the Chinese have figured out and used colonial constitutional capitalism, and they have I think it's almost 80 million vacant buildings, different sizes, shapes, houses, apartments, a lot of business buildings, inland, a lot of them empty, totally empty. But they built them. They're ready to expand, and people, oh, this is a problem. And we'll say, well, it still holds an asset because they did the same thing. See, they arranged for everybody to cycle and keep working, work, max production, make assets, make materials, refine stuff, got done. Okay. So compared to these other countries around the world where we're going to be at when we're looking at what's going to end up happening over the course of the next 100 years, we're looking at some pretty bad stuff. We're coming up really, really slow this way versus other people because the world outlook is more like this graph here. The world outlook is going to go zoom, and our line doesn't come anywhere near that close. So there's lots of ways you can look at this stuff to try to understand, different rates for different countries of what's going to be happening. But then you have to add all those lines together of all the other countries to understand the total amount of mass leverage. Guess what? The news is not that great because we basically are falling behind. If you're going to equate just figure out that every person who is not building 3 houses per year, yeah, no kidding, okay, that's a loss. You weren't allowed to build 3 houses a year for 3 years in a row, maybe 5. Of course, if you built 3 houses in a row and you now have 9 houses, you're going to be renting some of them out, which means now you can parlay some of that money into something else, like building extra houses faster or a new type of business. Hello. So, so there's a lot of different ways to do this, Well, one of my buildings was I built a shop for myself. Okay, great. So there's all these things about working with stuff, rescheduling loans and all this stuff, because the neat thing is we get to print currency on it. And there's 2 factors. There's the potential for taxation, which we do not want to ever do. But it's good for it. It's a legitimate worldwide, everybody recognizes appraisal for potential taxes. We do today even. But you don't tax it. Here's the thing. You don't tax anybody. You're going to print currency based upon those potential taxes, and you're going to do East Indy-style company liquidation as we purchase other products. And what? Oh, that's creating extra stimulus and jobs. But ideally, we also want to make longevous assets as well because those appraise out very nice. So that's all these additional factors. There's actually numerous ones. But when we get into this, we're talking about understanding that the first main statistic, why should the government get to keep all the money and only maybe allow you to borrow money through the Treasury? Let me explain this to you. There's some extra procedures that people don't understand. Where's our cut? Yes, we're supposed to get a cut. See, and the cut was supposed to get larger and larger as time went on. In other words, olden law, nobody's allowed to be a slave for 7 years or more. Nobody's allowed to be doing slaving of themselves for 7 years or more. So you have to get the fairer cut. Say, most people would be on no more than 10 years to retirement. The old saying, put your 20 in, you're done, that's it, you're entitled. Yeah, that's, from 20 to 40. That's it. You're 40. Yeah, you put your 20 in, you're done, man. You're retired, man. You're supposed to get a cut forever. Boom. Some kind of deal. Okay. Because you did good work, and the money was used again and again. What? To develop hard assets or longevous assets, which are what? You appraise against them, and it justifies being an existing asset, and it justifies the printing of currency. The printing of currency can then be used just in the cycle, as I've discussed, to bring back coin or other products. We also brought back other products. See, our forefathers were clever. Well, we can do all coin, or we can also trade for other things, like we want them big saw blades over there. Yeah, we want some cannon and all this other stuff, and then all this other stuff on this list. we can't sell you no cannons. We can't go get you no cannons. You're on sanctions. Well, I'll tell you what, here, I'll send these 3 witnesses right here. The unfortunate thing is, tonight, apparently a whole bunch of people came and robbed your ship. I mean, you put all your guys ashore and you sent them on into the bar and they all passed out drunk. And these people overpowered and they stole your cannons right off your ship. These 3 gentlemen saw it happen. You understand? I'll give you here a certified paper right here. Now, here's the deal. We're going to pay you. We're going to pay you twice the going rate of new cannons, twice the going rate of new cannons you could get. You can get any place because you're not on sanction for your used cannons today. You see how that works? Come on, you can do this. Let me slap you on the arm. You're a bud, right? You can do that. Of course, yeah, that's the smile I wanted to hear. So, yeah, creativity is something that was done repeatedly, and we got what we wanted. And this is why we also started having our industrial revolution shoot up like a rocket ship. I have a list someplace of a lot of stuff that I came up with that was done. It's quite interesting. So we have to get back on the understanding that if you're a vested citizen, your labor's bankable. What's a vested citizen? Does your lineage go back 75 years or more? You're a vested citizen. And we got levels of vestation. A lot of people don't realize it, because you don't want people to become vested until 75 years, because then everybody's going to want to come into the country and immediately be a vested citizen. No. 75 years minimum. Yeah, to become fully vested, Now, some people's lineage goes back 250 years. 150 years. 150 years gets you into basically 7 stages full vestation. Yeah, you were here during the great Louisiana Purchase and all the great land purchases. You're rich. And you're supposed to have stock. Now, these temporary representatives who are supposed to be public servants are lying to you. They're withholding information from you. They've been in charge and trust of documents that they have mysteriously misplaced and lost in some cases as they lie to you. They're public servants. We're stockholders. We're the bosses. They're the employees. It's an honor to be a public servant, to get elected for a short period of time to help facilitate our financial wellness. So let's jump back to the part where we get a cut. See, and then we get to vote. The vested citizens have different tiers of voting. See, we're supposed to vote amongst ourselves for things that we want to get done. And this is something that people like, oh, that's the secret voting stuff and the weird Mason stuff and all this. It has a lot to do with who was vested in certain projects. So there was a lot of people that never got invited to certain areas. Why? There was no reason to invite them. Now, senor, I'm a good man. They says I only be here 90 days. I can vote now. I'm sorry, you're not getting invited into the 150-year plan of where we're talking about what we need to get done in certain areas, because it's real serious. And many of us have been going at least once a month, sometimes once a week, to various meetings or, looking things up, researching them, trying to stay apprised of what's going on, because we have to take care of our water and all these other situations. I'm very sorry. Perhaps in the future you could get invited to some meetings, certainly some meetings, but yeah, the real big certain things, certain voting. So it's important. You have to be loyal to the Constitution or you can't vote. Being here 90 days does not qualify you as a fully vested citizen. Now you got some other people going to walk up and say, hey, yeah, I did 20 years in the military. I came here. I got my green card. I came here the right way, and I decided to join the military. I did my 20 years. Well, you definitely have some levels of vestation. You get the VA loan. You get a lot of stuff. And you are very, very respected. You're definitely, so, we can talk about all the different levels of vestation, but, it's important to understand, say. And so you have people that, they put in 5 years in some kind of service. There's a lot of different people in different areas that risk their life in certain service things. These people are at the first levels of vestation, 1 through 7. You're some of it's actually like separate. So you're vested, you're respected, you're a vested citizen. You became a citizen and you've been a police officer or an ICE officer for 5 years. Okay. Yeah, you're respected and you've got some vestation. So, there's different levels. Should you be booked to build 7 houses, 1 house a year? I would have to say, if it's put to the vote of all the vested citizens, that I would be in favor of saying, well, yeah, let's back this person to make their labor bankable and build their own house. But of the 75 and 150-year vested citizens, I'm going to say, man, we deserve to build 3 houses a year. We deserve to get going really good at max production. So this is the thing. See, we have a bunch of people saying, oh, no, we have to spend $480,000 and turn you into a burger flipper. Then you have to go to college. You have to struggle. Then you'll be in debt. And maybe by age 26, you'll have a good job, only a little bit of the loan to pay off. Maybe by 28, maybe 30 years of age, you'll have enough money saved to still make a down payment on a home. A pre-built stick job. Okay, BS. Yeah, BS. No, we have to put an end to this, of what these people are doing. The kind of fraud that we're seeing all over the place. Every which way we look, we're seeing it. It has to end. We have people, I've seen people who are veterans living under the freeway, just mere blocks away from the Academy Award, when they were holding an event. I went down there with cameras and I had to do my little bit as a college. I took film in college and whatnot, so I go down there to go ahead and get some shots for a project. And I decided to go ahead and just check a few other things out along the way. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And I talked and I interviewed people and I verified a few things. And, over the years, I verified other things. Go here, drive here, let's see what's going on. And for the longest time, more than 20% of people who were homeless, or I'd call them the hidden homeless, were vested citizens. Their lineage went back 75 to 150 years or even more. And I'm like, why are these people not having their bankability, their labor being 100% bankable to build their own houses? There's no logic here. Where's max production? People sitting around, that's not max production. Flipping burgers is not max production after you just put in 13 years of schooling. Colonials began carpentry at age 12. They built their first house by age 15. Longevity was a total of 38 years. You had to get your whole life in before age 40. The statistical odds were there's no guarantee you were going to make it to 40. So these concepts that people are telling you, no, you have to work 42 years before you could retire. Longevity was 38 in 1750, the foundation of the country. And you want me to work 42 years before a minimal retire? This is crazy. So the burger flipper, you're collecting what, $3,800 in taxes? Somehow maybe more, different way. But if you back them to build 1 house a year, yeah, your labor's bankable. Schedule it in. Let's have you build a house. Let's do this. Yeah, they can pay themselves union wage, like maybe $38 an hour. How about that? $38 an hour. And end up owning the house. They're going to build it 70 cents on the dollar. That's a 30% equity harvest to retail. Plus, they're paying themselves wages as they do this. It's self-perpetuating. Can you say this? Let's all say this together. It's self-perpetuating. Doesn't that feel good? Go ahead and do it again. Yes. Okay. So now the thing here is that we need to get back on track and go beyond. See, we've gone backwards Since 1750, we've gone backwards. And we have these people running, we got these Marxists and communists and socialists running around telling you they want you to be a good communist worker, be a good union person. Yes, and we can help negotiate for you for a little better wages. This is all lunacy. This goes no place. In 5 years, you're going to really start seeing it. You're going to see robots everywhere. Everywhere. You're going to see a guy. There's a guy with a leaf blower. No, that's a robot. That's a robot? Yeah, it's a robot. You're right. It's a robot. Yeah. People. It's happening already all over the place. Okay. There's no future statistically for 32 or 33 million people that are here illegally. In 5 to 10 years for sure. In 5 years, that statistic is probably easily half that, if not more. There's no reason. It's evil. It's evil to imply to people for some reason that they would have opportunity. Come here with no skills, no permission, and you're going to be covered. No. That's lying. That's evil. Don't do that to people. Don't lie to people like that. We have politicians doing it all the time. Sanctuary city. Don't do that. Don't encourage people. Don't lie to people. Don't lie to people. Attract them to come here and then run around jacking people to come up with money for medical care and all this other stuff. This Marxism stuff has to end. Because us vested citizens want our collective power back as stockholders. Because as stockholders, we collectively get together and say, well, look, I want to buy a $90,000 robot, but here's the deal. I want to collectively pool with millions of other vested citizens to guarantee the notes, to guarantee the money to be borrowed, to be handed over to one of these big businesses to expand, to do development and expand on these super robots. Humanoid robots can do anything. Build a barbecue in my backyard. Yeah, I want to cut. See, we're going to help get the money. We're going to co-sign on the money, but we want something. We want some stock. We want some stock kicked back to us for doing it. I mean, we're going to help perpetuate your big business, but we're going to get something. Oh, by the way, we want at cost plus. Let's pre-agree. I don't know. We got 10 million people. Hold up your hand. Oh, maybe 80, maybe 80 million people right away to say, yeah, I could go for that. Yeah, I want a robot like that. Yeah, I'll co-sign on the loan to end up loaning them money / with a stock consideration as well. See, we should be perpetuating what? Our financial wellness together. But because we are the Treasury, I want you to say this. Stand up. Clear your mind for a moment. I want you to say that we, the vested citizens, are the Treasury. Okay, it's very simple. We have what? Public servants that are temporarily elected. They're temporary servants. Okay, the government can't own this stuff. It's our property. We are the investors. We have a republic, not a democracy, okay? This is important. So as far as voting, it's a specialized thing. And we have people that keep trying to stretch certain powers of voting. No. It's wrong. There's all these legal reasons. We need to get together as vested voters, vested citizens, and say, hey, look, about these people that are Johnny-come-lately that want to vote. They want to vote and think that, I only been here 90 days and they give me a vote. We're voting to go uptown and jack the rich folks of 50% of their money. We deserve it. 95 days ago, you weren't even in the country, and now you want to vote. No, we're getting tired of this. The tactical table experiments done by our forefathers were definitive. We constantly have these people lying. Well, we got Truth Pharmaceuticals. Lie detectors are mandatory in government since like 1979. You can't have a government job unless you pre-agree in advance. You are pre-agreeing in advance to take lie detector test on demand. Well, now fMRI lie detectors are the ultimate thing. You're going to have your head scanned and it's big calibration, and they're going to put a bunch of Truth Pharmaceuticals in you, and you're going to feel wonderful. Oh, wow, I'm relaxed. So yeah, and this stuff's been real. Scopolamine, all this other stuff, all the way back from World War II truth serums. Yeah, this stuff's actually real. They go, oh, it's not definitive. Some people can resist it. Really? You mean the person that, like, I don't know, does hundreds of dollars in heroin a day or something might be able to resist? Well, yeah. Okay, look, this is something that a lot of people talk about, and they don't know what they're talking about. They haven't researched it heavy enough. There's a bunch of guys that don't even know how to do fMRIs right. They'll talk about the statistics, and I'll look at their research. I say, you didn't even calibrate this person into the device properly. And you're saying that it's no good. You didn't. I looked at your work. You didn't do it right. And it's sad to say there's a significant percentage of people doing lie detector tests with fMRIs as research evaluations, and they did it wrong. So anyhow, so as we move forward, we need to do something. We need to realize what's going on. What's going on with all these countries? What's going on with all this massive production that's everywhere? Wow. Okay, and then we're just here. So the thing is we have to be able to take care of business. And the populations, top population, what are we, 360 roughly? And bottom image is what's in that image? What is in that image? Collectively, what? 2.7 billion people? You have to get real people, because we now have other problems in the United States. We have people who are Marxist, communist, socialists that are diabolically opposed to the Constitution of the United States. But you have to take an oath to be able to run for office. In fact, you're supposed to take an oath to be able to vote. Did you know when I started voting, I had to go down, I actually got a voting card, an actual voting card, okay? I had to swear an oath. What's going on with this country? And it used to be that way. I said, well, there's too many people, we have to make this efficient. Well, screw you and your efficiency and low cost, because you want to do it this certain other way. No, these people want to do it the way of the Marxist, the way that it works best for the Marxist, the communist, or socialist. No, those diabolically oppose personal property. They diabolically oppose our ownership of the treasury, our bankability of our labor. Because if I can build 3 houses a year, let me see, 10 years, that's 30 houses. Wow. So in 30 years, that's 90 houses. See, the nature of heaven, if Christ were here and John or someone walked up and says, if I follow you, how many houses can I make? He looks at him and says, oh, you can have more than 100 houses. He was a carpenter. That number was insane. Longevity was 33 years of age back then. That's less than 38. 33 years of age back then. And they had primitive tools. The idea of you being a carpenter, making 100 houses, that was, in your life, that's a lot. Today, oh, senor, I am a good carpenter. We have good power tools. It's a very good. You give me two helpers, give me 2 kids. I build you 3 houses a year, senor, no problem. People, we need to be honest. We need to get real about what's going on here. We have to understand what the truth is. We have to understand we have a lot of people, judicial agents, that have been lying to us. Okay, because keep in mind, the entire contest is what? You're going to swear an oath to the Constitution. What's the Constitution say? In order to promote our financial wellness and abundant, fair environment, the word condensed is called welfare. Yeah, it's not about food stamps. So when you don't see these people proposing stimulus packages, you have to understand, how come you're not proposing stimulus packages, building packages? You're proposing destroyer packages. You're proposing financial incompetence. You're proposing all these things that are destroyer philosophy items. Steal people's property. Overtax people to where they lose everything they own. This is insanity. This is insanity because we're part of the Treasury. There's no excuse for this. None whatsoever. There's no excuse for leadership to not be promoting stimulus. So when I hear these people standing up and say, we got the solution, we're going to go down and inject the rich folks. You just violated your constitutional oath. You're not allowed to be a candidate. Now, why we have such wussy people in basically in government that are not prosecuting people to say, yeah, well, what is this? Look at it. It's a constitutional oath. Oh, so you can run for office. Right. Okay, this is mandatory. What happens if you violate it when you're running for office? Give me a break here, man. We got people that should be arrested here. All right, I'm going to take a break. And I'll get back with the next part.